Well, many of you commented on the last video asking for this, so here we are. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for letting me know. We're going to do the deep dive on how the trial chambers are generated. So if you're out of the loop, Snapshot 23W45A dropped and it introduced the trial chambers structure we're checking out in this video, as well as the new breeze mob. So if you don't know what this new structure is and you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend that you go and watch it before seeing this one, as we're just getting into the technical details about how this is all put together, and we're going to see all of the different rooms that make up the trial chambers. So here in this flat world, we have all of the structures that make up the trial chambers laid out for us to look at. I have picked this spot right here to start because this structure is called entrance. And this is it right here. It's closed off though, so let's go into spectator mode and fly through, and you'll see that in this room is the tree, which I actually suspected was the starting room, and it's how we started our trial chamber adventure in the previous video. Now you'll see that it has two chests here. These generate loot when they're opened. You can actually get a key in the very first room. That's kind of crazy. Up here though, I found a loot chest, but you can see there is a different block here. This is the jigsaw block. I'm going to be opening up and talking about these a fair bit. As you can see here, it refers to a reward structure file. That's something we'll come back to later in the video. In fact, that's something you'll probably hear me say a lot because we're going to open a lot of these jigsaw blocks. They're going to reference to how the structures link together. This one has in connector, which is something that appears a lot. So next we're going to check out these two intersection structures. If we open this up, you'll see that in connector again. It could be that that shape there lines up with this one. That seems pretty reasonable. And if we now head on inside, this is an intersection that obviously connects different areas together. Here's another one of those jigsaw blocks. This one connects to hallways. But before we move on to that, let's head up this staircase, because behind this door is a really cool room that I'd spotted when checking these out in the previous video I made. You've got 4 beds down here, all with different colours. And there's also a barrel that's got some loot generated in it. So that was the first intersection, and here is the second type. This is another room that we saw in yesterday's video, the waterlogged one, where there's a ladder. You can go down here and yeah, 4 beds again. This time they're all white and some loot in the chest. This is where I got my hands on some diamonds. Now on this side of that structure, the jigsaw block down at the bottom here connects to a corridor. Specifically this one in a whole array of different corridor types. Now I have a suspicion that these get tiled side by side. That's because we have this corridor first plate and corridor second plate, which might mean that there's 2 of these in every structure. When we open up the jigsaw blocks, we can see that it refers to corridors at the top here. So I think what it's doing is assembling 4 slices of these side by side. And as we go across them, you can see the sort of iterations on this free floor layout. Sometimes there's a connection, sometimes it's blocked off. And then sometimes you get these copper blocks on the side. If we open the door and see what's behind, it's a jigsaw block and it links to a hallway. Let's have a look at these jigsaw blocks that are lying on the floor where you'd expect to see your copper blocks. When we open them up, you can see that they refer to Decor. And based on where I've seen decorated pots, I think they're a part of the Decor system. Now obviously these don't place the Decor blocks each and every time, so there's some form of randomization going on here. Maybe it's something to do with the levels or these numbers, but it seems pretty clear to me that that's what would happen. So as you can see, there are a lot of chances for it to place Decor inside of these structures. And there is also a couple other things here. We have add-ons, for example. We'll come back to that later, as we will do spawners. And here in a fully generated structure, you can see we've actually got one on top of another, and another one here in one of these corridor slices that we've just seen. Here's one of those copper block bits that connects to another part of the dungeon. And when we walk down these corridors, you can see the Decor blocks generating on the side. Remember, there were those jigsaw blocks at these spots, and down at this level too. The more I've gone around this world, the more I realized I've kind of like skipped over things a little bit. So here are some more corridor elements. These are like add-ons to the original corridor. And then there's a couple more here too. And the one that we have in this trial chamber are these steps. Right, you saw that a second ago in the flat world. Quick little interruption from me. If you're enjoying this video and you're not subscribed, please consider doing so. This is the type of stuff that I do, showing you the ins and outs of the latest snapshots and Minecraft features. Anyway, back to the video. So, the hallways. There are only 4 designs here. We have this one, which I think repeats on itself. When you open up this, you can see it refers to a hallway again. If we look at this one right here, you'll see it's a staircase that goes up to another level. As is this one here, except it just goes up a little further than before. And then the last one is referred to as rubble, which I think is just a term for dead end. So I said there were 4 hallway structures. I've actually found some more. I misunderstood what these were. Going around a second time and looking at all of this, it makes more sense. And then here you can see there's a hallway that actually splits up with a spawner in the middle. Then we got right and left corners. We've also got corner staircases. There are basically like a lot of elements for all the different types of connection, like a stairway that just goes straight down or straight up. I guess it depends on what way you're going through it. So yeah, there were a few more hallway elements, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, Thor just wasn't enough really. So earlier in the video, I commented on these copper blocks and the door here. This is what links to a hallway. So here's one of those that we've just seen in the flat world, taking us up to the next level. Right, next up we're going to look at the chambers. There are quite a few of them. These are some of the biggest structures, and the jigsaw blocks at the entrance refer to these as entrance caps. And based on the difference of looking at these structures in this video compared to the last, I get the feeling that the entrance cap is like a limit on how many entrances you can actually have into this room. Maybe it's only 1 or 2. Okay, let's enter the second room, which has powder snow down at the bottom, and then whatever you want to call this structure in the middle of the room. The third room has a layout I don't think I'm yet to encounter, but let's talk about the jigsaw blocks in here next. So this one is for a spawner. You can kind of tell because it's above that 3x3 space. There's another one over there. But then we get these odd blocks like this. These are once again add-ons. There is another one over here, and the target name is different. Platform with space, C-free side walkway, and C-free corner room. These obviously represent different structures. We're going to see those later and it'll all start to make sense. This room is the one that I thought the spider's in. I remember because down here they got stuck underneath in this space. Okay, trial chamber number 5, one that I also didn't see, or maybe I didn't notice the magma blocks, but we've definitely seen this feature with the dispenser in the middle before. And speaking of dispensers, now's a good time to mention that you've seen these blocks on the walls. Well, when we open them up, they also refer to dispensers. And going into room 6, we are going to see a lot more of this. So yeah, basically the dispensers can generate in the walls, we know that. But this is on a chance-based system, which I think is what the jigsaw block is using. So rather than have a dispenser in fixed positions, you've got like a randomized placement for it. And again, here in the middle, you're going to see that there are add-ons. Okay, room number 8 is this one where I died in my previous video to those poison arrow skeletons. Okay, this one's number 9, the last that we're going to look at, because there's only 9 of these main chamber rooms. And if you were keeping count, we skipped number 7, right? Well, 7 isn't actually there in the game files. Maybe there was an issue with it and it might get added later on. Alright, let's get to the add-ons now. These are chamber add-ons, so we've actually seen these referenced to inside of chambers, and I think what these elements are a way to sort of distort or add to the original shape of a chamber. Then in some of those smaller chambers, it would make sense if you had these smaller elements going on, like this great bridge. If you think about the structures we've already seen compared to the ones we looked at a moment ago, this makes a lot of sense because sometimes you see random structures like this hanging from the ceiling. So yeah, these are just some really great elements to like add some more randomization and uniqueness into each of the chambers so they don't feel the same each time you go through one. Okay, we have some add-ons for side walkways, which I've definitely seen at the back of some of those chamber rooms. So again, you can see the system is really complex and there are just tons of elements coming together here to make sure that your experience down there is different each time. And did we see this C3 one referred to earlier? Yeah, I think we saw a reference to a few of these, so these like extend upon that original room layout, I believe. But I do want to make it like super clear. I'm just doing my best guessing right here. Like I don't fully understand how the jigsaw system works. I don't have insight into the game code. But one thing is for sure, we can just see what these are by looking at them. I definitely went into a room that had this structure and then it had a decorated pot right in the middle of this. We'll look at the rest of these add-ons. I think one or two of them, again, we've seen referenced when we've been opening up these jigsaw blocks. These are just clearly elements, again, that appear inside of those chamber rooms to just make them more unique one to the next. In fact, the room where we fought the blaze in that last video had some of these copper grate layouts on the ground. I remember that. Oh, there's a few more add-ons over here too. Again, you know, mostly things just hanging from the ceiling of certain rooms. So let's factor in all that we've seen and head into this chamber room. It might not be obvious which one this is at first, but when I jump up here, let's look at the walls around the outside. It's that really big open room that we went into earlier, and now you can see how all those different shapes and add-on things that we just checked out, they're like inserted into the room at random to give it a unique layout. And as well as these big structural shapes, we also saw copper grates in the ground and things hanging from the ceiling, and now you're probably getting how it all gets pieced together inside of the trial chamber. Okay, so decor, we've seen this quite a bit. As you can see, it can generate an empty pot or one with a dead bush. But then you got decorated pot. I think this has probably got an item inside it. Aha, copper ingot. Then there are the different levels of candles and a barrel. Again, I think this is going to have some loot inside of it. Aha, and you remember this from earlier, right? It creates a dispenser in the wall. If we open this up, you can see it references the chiseled tough brick that jigsaw block will change into after it's generated this. Oh, and then we have the reward chest. So when you see a chest on top of these copper blocks, it means that you're going to get some of the better loot, like enchanted armor. Now, as for the spawners, we have small melee, melee, and the ranged. So we understand that these are the different categories. Then it's probably going to pick, you know, a random one from the ranged category. And the breeze is, of course, in its own category, and here is its spawner with the blocks laid around it. If we use this command on the block, we can get some information about how it's configured. Now, I don't know if the game code can influence any of these numbers, but this might just be the default configuration for a spawner. If I'd have had access to this world straight away, it would have made my life a lot easier. I spent ages searching around for all the different types and figuring out what they were by looking at them one by one and checking out the MBT data of the block. Oh, this is interesting. There's actually some distinction between the different groups, not the individual spawners, but here I've noticed that the simultaneous mobs goes up when you're in the slow category. But other than that one detail, these all appear to be configured the same way as I explained it in my previous video. And last of all, I'd like to say, I think we put eyes on just about everything there is in this world. I might have skipped over one or two bits just because the layout had me jumping around to different places trying to explain all the elements that I pieced together in this video. So let me know how you think I did. Like I said, the jigsaw stuff, I'm kind of guessworking as to how it works, but a lot of it seems quite obvious and intuitive. I'm sure there's some elements I might have misunderstood, but we can see the various components and how they fit together as we've experienced it in a regular world. So yeah, that was your deep dive on the structure blocks. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon with another. Bye bye.